Georgia. Hi. I think I'm live on Facebook and probably shouldn't be trying to lift a 75-pound dog. Hello, everybody. I'm coming to you from my kitchen, and this is where our wood-burning stove is that we really don't use unless it gets pretty cold because it makes the house hot, but it makes it browns things really well, like nachos are great in the wood burning stove. And when it's minus 25 outside, it's the first thing I want to light in the morning. It's easy to light and really warms things up. And I don't know if you can really see it, but our appliances are propane too because our house is solar and off the grid. And so the stove is propane, which always throws our lodge visitors into a kerfluffle how to light it. Honestly, I'm not that good at it either. And I also wanted to show you something today that I'm super excited about. This is Georgia's new dog harness because I've gotten excited about the idea of skijoring, which is when you're getting pulled as a skier by, well, anything. It can be a horse, it can be a dog, it can be a snowmobile or a car. And I have a horse that's trained to pull, and hopefully sometime in the next year we'll get a sleigh and we'll get a little cart for her to pull. But in the meantime, I'm going to teach Georgia, our Belgian Malinois, to pull me, and I'm going to work with Kitty on pulling me. I'm going to see if I can get Georgia in the frame here so you guys can see how pretty she is. She is super excited about getting chosen for the harness. There she is. Hi, sweetheart. Yesterday, we put the harness on her, and Petey was wildly jealous. Our Boston Terrier in Georgia thought she was the most beautiful thing in the world. The other thing, before we get to talking about snake oil and the book discussion question, is that I'm also super excited about this. I don't know if you guys know what this is, but we've been waiting for about a year to redo our deck at Snowheresville. It's a 30-year-old deck built by the original owner. It's really cool, but it's getting saggy. It's like a trampoline. And we get these lodge guests, and we want to give them a really nice deck experience, but we also want it for ourselves because the view is incredible. And last summer we couldn't get the materials because of COVID, but we're doing one of those they last forever decks out of the this is a Fiberon material, and this is not a paid ad for Fiberon. It's not the color we're going to do. We are going to do something slightly different, but I'm pumped because it's a go. All right, so just a second. The Boston Terrier wants out, and then I'm going to answer the question. Petey, bad timing. There you go. Outside. Real life. All right, so I've been doing these videos to give you guys links to the discussion questions and to answer these book clubby kind of questions about the Patrick Flint books. I used to do this for all my series, and I just kind of fell off of it. So anyway, I'm going to do it today for snake oil. Snake oil is set in the dead of winter, and it's in Wyoming in the 1970s. It's actually occurs over half of it on the Wind River Reservation, which is really kind of central in the state. It's a huge northern Arapaho and eastern Shoshone reservation. And it's fitting to talk about it right now. Oh, the cat's going outside too, because it's cold here, or it has been anyway, really cold here and snowy. Although today's like spring, it's up in the high 20s. And when it's been minus 25, that really feels great. I'm about to meet the farrier to work on the horse's feet, and I'm thinking, do I need a coat? It's 27 out there. Anyway, that also makes me think of that I want to clean every speck of this lodge. It's that spring cleaning fever. Do you guys get it too as soon as it starts to warm up? So the question we're going to answer today is about Patrick. And last week we answered one with Switchback about Suzanne. So I guess that means next week we'll probably do Trish or Perry. But the question I wanted to answer is the first one in the discussion questions. Patrick Flint chooses to volunteer at an Indian Health Services clinic when family company is due to arrive for Christmas. Is he noble? Is he selfish? Or is he somewhere in between? And I wanted to answer this one for two reasons. One is that it gives a little of the backstory of why I wrote this book by answering this question. And number two is, that's this many, two. I held up one finger for a second. The second reason is that when I chat with readers about these books, they're always saying, my gosh, sometimes I just want to smack Patrick. Why does he push, push, push? Sometimes it seems like he's not smart enough to be a doctor, or he's a little bit selfish and he puts people at risk. And I wanted to address that because I happen to agree that those are some of Patrick's most endearing traits. So, is he noble? Is he selfish? Why is he doing this? So, for starters, with each of the books, I tried to base it on something real and then expand from there. Because, of course, these are they're homage autobiographical about my dad and our family. And with this book, the piece that was autobiographical, or not auto, but biographical for my dad, was that all my growing up years, he would go out and work in remote locations for people that were in some way, I'm going to use the word disadvantaged, but that sells them short. People that had challenges, right? So maybe their challenges like they're experiencing on the reservation, where the Indian Health Services clinics are understaffed, underfunded. You don't have access to all the health care we have in metropolitan areas at all. And for my dad, one of the places that he mainly spent time at was Boys Ranch in West Texas. And this was a home for boys that needed to be there. Whatever their home circumstances were, that they couldn't be in their homes, they needed another place to be. So we spent time, we'd go out with him to Boys Ranch and go to their rodeos. We donated horses, actually, to the ranch, and we'd go watch our horses in these rodeos and see the things that my dad did out there. Well, they don't have a boys ranch in Wyoming, and so my dad never actually volunteered at the Indian Health Services Clinic on the Wind River Reservation, but I decided that would make a good stand-in for what really happened, especially because one thing about Peter Fagan in real life is that he does 100% share the respect, bordering on obsession for Native American cultures and the way they lived, which brings up another discussion question in this list. Pamela, why aren't you calling them Native Americans in this book? And for those of you that are younger than me, that term had not even come into usage at that time. The term that was starting to come into usage was American Indian. And even that wasn't quite as favored, both by the people that lived and considered themselves part of the Native American communities, and those outside it. The word Indian was still primarily used, although American Indian was starting to be used. Anyway, my father and Patrick Flint really, really, really respected that culture and were fascinated by it. So it made sense. So why would he go and volunteer when his wife and his kids needed him and we had family coming? Was this noble? Was it selfish? Well, of course you know the answer to this, right? It was both. And maybe sometimes that's the real hallmark of somebody with a giving spirit, is that there are two sides to that gift. What you say yes to also determines what you say no to, and vice versa. So if you're saying yes to helping someone, you're saying no to all the other possibilities. And that's all of us in all the choices that we make. And definitely was the case with my dad and some of the choices that he made. And 100% was and is Patrick Flint in all these books. What he says yes to, sometimes it means he says no to his family, or maybe it means he says no to when he's on some particular adventure and needs to rescue someone, to an easier path. Maybe when he says yes to some adventure he really wants to do, it says no to taking the safer route. A really, really driven, single-minded, focused personality, which also lends itself, well, now getting to the question of, my gosh, is Patrick Flint even smart enough to be a doctor? Some of the bad choices he makes. Well, those aren't the same things, right? Intelligence and the ability to learn, to pass tests, to retain knowledge, to synthesize things, and to analyze is not the same thing as a single drive excitement about the pursuit of adventure. and sometimes a more optimistic or overly ambitious view of how well others are going to do in following along with you in your adventure. So anyway, that's what I have to say about Patrick today. The Boston Terrier is staring at me through the open screen door, and the cold air is starting to come in. I take it all back what I said earlier about not wearing a coat. I'm definitely wearing one because it's getting cold in this kitchen. You guys take care, and I'll see you next week with a question about sawbones, and I think we'll talk about Perry Flint next week. Bye, guys.